in that time period that we weren't helping Ukraine with their intelligence, Russia upped their attacks. So there were buildings destroyed, people actually killed in those days. So that idea of, well, we're only going to help you if you do what we want, you see the sense of it, but then you also see in the short term there can be real pain caused by that.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with senior columnist Tim Carney. And Tim, President Donald Trump, as you write in a column for the Washington Examiner this past week, has a very transactional negotiating style leading on toughness that can backfire on occasion. And one example of that you get into is the threats against Canada that might have resulted in him facing off against an opponent he doesn't necessarily want, right?
Yeah, so America has always tried to avoid entangling alliances, right? That was George Washington's warning. And Trump takes that to an extreme, where our relationship with every country is just sort of a, what have you done for me lately? We're not going to give you anything unless we get something in return. And with most countries that makes sense, but with sort of the UK and Canada, we have this longer lasting friendship, and Trump has sort of scrapped that and said, no, if you have any tariffs on us, we're going to reciprocate, and we're going to threaten to make you the 51st state, which is sort of like a funny troll, but it seems to upset the Canadians. And if you look at the polls they have, they're going to have their general election, and the Conservative Party was way ahead in the polls until sort of Trump came into office, and now the Liberals, who their prime minister is Mark Carney, he's going to win a re-election probably because Trump was playing hardball with Canada. So that's a lasting impact that'll go beyond whatever the short-term trade war is.
That transactional approach has also applied to the negotiations with Russia over a ceasefire in Ukraine. That's caused problems both for the negotiations themselves, but also politically for Trump back home, right?
Sure. So Trump was upset that Zelensky behaved in that White House meeting, and that Zelensky wasn't ready to sign on to a ceasefire yet. And so Trump went ahead and pulled intelligence cooperation with Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And then Zelensky came to the table for a ceasefire. First of all, Russia said no to that. But second of all, in that time period that we weren't helping Ukraine with their intelligence, Russia upped their attacks. So there were buildings destroyed, people actually killed in those days. So that idea of, well, we're only going to help you if you do what we want, you see the sense of it, but then you also see in the short term there can be real pain caused by that.
And then here in Washington, Donald Trump tried to play hardball with Republican Congressman Thomas Massie while the House was trying to pass this stopgap funding bill for the rest of the fiscal year. It didn't work, did it?
It didn't work. And Massie had the best line on this. He said, I built up my Trump antibodies last time, mm-hmm. which is when Massie opposed one of the COVID-era funding bills. Trump had the same sort of attacks on him and said, he's the worst. And it was unpleasant for Thomas Massie, and he came through it, and he realized he could survive. So that attacking relentlessly and nastily anybody who's bucking him, what it does is eventually it builds up the thick skin on your opponent. So now he has no leverage over Massie because of how much he tried to exert back in 2020.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Tim and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.